What if the most powerful stories of resilience weren't written in books, but tucked between two slices of bread? Long before avocado toast and designer breakfast, our grandparents were crafting survival sandwiches. From pig ear on white bread to crispy fried bologna, meals born of hardship, ingenuity, and love. Cheap, filling, and full of soul, these humble creations turned scraps into treasures. Could it be time to remember the flavor and history packed into every bite? Here are 15 forgotten African American sandwiches your grandparents ate to survive. Number 1. Chopped liver sandwich. Traditional ingredients for chopped liver include sautéed onions, hard-boiled eggs, schmaltz, rendered chicken fat, and cooked liver, often chicken liver. Everything is chopped or processed to a consistency similar to a spreadable pâté. Once a mainstay in African American homes, the chopped liver sandwich is a testament to creativity, modest living, and the skill of transforming simple ingredients into a profoundly fulfilling dish. Although it was cheap and high in nutrients, liver, whether from cow or chicken, wasn't necessarily the most appealing food when used alone. First, the liver would be sautéed or simmered with plenty of onions until it was all really soft and aromatic. Hard-boiled eggs were then added for texture and richness, and schmaltz, or rendered fat, was added for a smooth, spreadable consistency. Sometimes this was done by hand, and other times it was done in a food processor. A dash of vinegar or spicy sauce, together with seasonings like salt and pepper, made the whole thing come to life. The chopped liver sandwich was a quick and filling meal that could be served cold or room temperature, heaped high on rye or soft white bread. It was ideal for lunchboxes, after-school snacks, or a simple dinner when finances and time were limited. At its foundation, the sandwich emphasized the savory, earthy flavor of the liver filling, although some families added lettuce for crisp or a dab of mustard for tartness. The chopped liver sandwich was more than simply a meal. It was a representation of perseverance. It stood for equating each meal with love and care, respecting every aspect of the animal, and making do with what was available. Cooking that was inspired by tradition but formed out of necessity serves as an important reminder that even the most basic foods have backstories worth preserving. Number 2. Pig's foot sandwich. The pig's foot sandwich is a potent illustration of how African American grandmas elevated ordinary, sometimes disregarded components into hearty, filling dishes. After hours of slow boiling, the tough and bony pig's feet transformed into soft jewels, releasing rich collagen that gave the meat a distinctively smooth and gelatinous feel. After the meat was cooked to perfection, it was meticulously diced or shredded, occasionally combined with tasty broth, and then heaped over sandwich rolls or soft white bread. The seasoning, which included a sprinkle of vinegar or hot sauce, a dash of black pepper, and occasionally a smear of spicy mustard, was what really made this sandwich stand out. It cut through the richness and gave it a vibrant bite. You'll want this sandwich again and over again because of the strong, sour tastes and the contrast between the soft bread and the supple, chewy meat. The pig's foot sandwich was more than simply nourishment for many families. It was a representation of survival and resourcefulness. Pig's feet provide important protein and a unique flavor during a time when every part of the animal had to be used to stretch few resources. It was a hearty, close-knit meal that was frequently prepared on Sundays or after long work days and enjoyed with loved ones. The meal can be served with collard greens on the side or with a chilled glass of sweet tea. Excellent for lunchboxes or picnics. For a little tang, some people enjoy it with a sprinkle of vinegar or a little spicy sauce. Number 3. Head cheese sandwich. Although it may seem strange to some in the current world, the head cheese sandwich was once a beloved dish that symbolized strong tradition and unyielding ingenuity for many African American households. The term head cheese is misleading because it is actually a meat jelly produced from slow-cooked pig head parts, such as the cheeks, nose, and other fragile trimmings, that are seasoned with salt, vinegar, and spices and set in their natural gelatin. Head cheese was served cold, sliced, and frequently accompanied by a smear of mustard, a dash of hot sauce, or a few pickles for crunch over a freshly made roll or soft white bread. Savory, tart, and slightly earthy, the taste was strong and the texture was solid but not soft. It wasn't an expensive sandwich, but it was substantial, satisfying, and tasted like something that was firmly anchored in history and necessity. Head cheese was a masterclass in maximizing what was available, having been born out of the necessity to waste nothing. Utilizing the entire animal was not only a custom, but also a means of survival for many Black working class and rural households. Generations of people have mastered the ability of transforming those less utilized pieces into something tasty and appetizing. Wrapped in wax paper, the head cheese sandwich was frequently consumed around lunchtime and transported to work in factories, kitchens, or fields. It provided genuine nourishment for people working long, hard days since it was reasonably priced, portable, and high in protein. These days, it's hard to find, and many people have either forgotten how it tastes or have never eaten it. However, for many who grew up eating it, the head cheese sandwich is still a strong reminder of a period when food was about more than simply taste. It was about culture, survival, and love, all of which were served cold between two pieces of bread. Although survival wasn't always pleasant, it was tasty. These sandwiches serve as evidence that taste is not a function of cost. It results from turning nothing into something. Number 4, fried fish po' boy. A sandwich rooted in deep-fried comfort, coastal tastes, and working-class grit. The fried fish po' boy speaks directly from the streets of the South. Despite its Louisiana origins, this sandwich quickly became a mainstay in many African American communities throughout the South, particularly in bayous, areas close to waterways, or backyards equipped with cast-iron fish fryers. It was a celebration of what could be created with a cast net, hot grease, and some quality bread. And it was more than simply a sandwich. Fried fish po' boy was essentially made with golden crispy fillets, mainly catfish, whiting, or occasionally perch, that were seasoned with cornmeal, salt, pepper, and love. When the fish was perfectly cooked, it was placed inside a soft, crusty French bread or hoagie-style bun and garnished with pickles, lettuce, sliced tomatoes, and a large amount of spicy sauce, remoulade, or Creole mustard, depending on what was in the refrigerator or what Grandma liked. Po' boy was derived from the word poor boy, and as the name suggests, it was a cheap means to feed a hungry mob. When someone would fry up some fish in the yard, wrap it in newspaper, and prepare sandwiches for the entire family, it was particularly popular on Fridays or Sundays after church. However, this sandwich was about community more than it was about food. It brought back memories of chats on the front porch, all-day fish fries, and relatives waiting in line at the kitchen table for the next morsel to emerge from the blazing oil. Soul food in its most informal yet revered form, the fried fish po' boy was crunchy on the exterior, delicate on the inside, and always well-seasoned. Number 5, smoked turkey wing sandwich. Despite never receiving the recognition it deserved, the smoked turkey wing sandwich is a quiet classic that has a special place in the hearts and kitchens of many African American families. This sandwich transformed leftovers into something quite remarkable. It was made using slow-smoked turkey wings, which were deeply seasoned, very soft, and infused with a distinct hickory or oak taste. The meat was frequently heaped on top of toasted buns or soft white bread after it had been carefully removed from the bone. For a little spice, it was occasionally topped with a slice of onion, pan gravy, or hot sauce. As a way to balance the smoky richness of the meat, some households placed a scoop of coleslaw directly on top. Despite not being a particularly attractive sandwich, it was filling, daring, and soulful. It was seasoned by people who understood just how to bring taste out of ordinary cuts, and it held the flavor of hours spent snuggled into an oven or over a low fire. The inexpensive turkey wing was sometimes disregarded, but when cooked properly, it had softness and depth that could compete with any expensive deli meat. After a large meal, when the wings were too delicious to throw away and just suitable for a makeover, the smoked turkey wing sandwich showed up the next day. It was leftovers that became legendary, proving that soul meals are as much about flavor as it is about creative thinking. Number 6, ham hock sandwich. An excellent example of maximizing the taste of every leftover ingredient is the ham hock sandwich. For hours, the tough, savory ham hocks from the pig's leg were slow cooked until the flesh was soft, smoky, and falling from the bone. The tender shreds of beef were then heaped over soft bread, frequently accompanied by a little mustard or spicy sauce to balance the richness. In many African American homes, this sandwich was a valued staple, particularly during difficult times when it was necessary to stretch ingredients. Although it wasn't expensive, it was hearty and flavorful, providing a filling, high-protein supper that could support a family on a tight budget. More than simply a simple meal, the ham hock sandwich served as a reminder of tenacity and culinary ingenuity, transforming ordinary slices into something exceptional. Ham hock sandwich ingredients include 2 garlic cloves, 1 quartered onion, 1 smoked or fresh ham hock, broth or water to simmer, season with salt and pepper. Hoagie rolls, cornmeal, or white bread, hot sauce, pickles, and mustard are optional. Put the ham hock in a saucepan with enough water or broth to cover it, along with the onion and garlic. The beef should be quite soft after 2 to 3 hours of gentle simmering. After removing the ham hock and allowing it to cool somewhat, slice or shred the meat, throwing away any tough skin or bones. Taste and adjust the salt and pepper. If you want your food spicy, you can add mustard or hot sauce. Arrange your preferred bread on top of the shredded ham hock meat. For crispness, add onions or pickles. This sandwich, which is frequently eaten with coleslaw or pickles on the side, captured the salty, smoky flavor of slow-cooked food in Southern kitchens, offering comfort and history with each mouthful. Fun facts: for generations, ham hocks have been a mainstay in African American kitchens. They are frequently used to add flavor to stews and greens, but they are also treasured when shredded and added to sandwiches to make meals last longer during difficult times. Number 7. Chitlins. Chitterlings. Sandwich. Chitlins, also known as chitterlings, are the cleansed intestines of pigs. Although many people consider them to be leftovers, African American grandmothers value them for their flavor and price. It took a lot of love to prepare chitlins. They needed to be well cleaned, boiled slowly, and carefully seasoned to bring out their rich, sensitive texture and subdue their potent aroma. Perfectly cooked chitlins were shredded or diced, occasionally briefly fried to give them a crispy exterior, and then piled over cornbread, sandwich rolls, or soft white bread. The sandwich's richness and earthy, deep tastes were typically paired with sharp condiments like vinegar, hot sauce, or spicy mustard. Slaw, pickles, or onions were occasionally added for crunch and acidity, creating a complex interplay of flavors and textures in each bite. This sandwich reminded people of Sunday dinners, family get-togethers, and tales told by elderly people who understood the importance of tradition and economical living. The sandwich is still a treasured memory for many who grew up eating it, despite the fact that chitlins may be a difficult dish for people who are not accustomed with its strong flavor and texture. This is a monument to soul food's origins in elevating what was ordinary. When welcomed, this flavor, which is as rich in culture, community, and resiliency as its flavor, tells a tale that is as demanding of patience, respect, and an open mind. Number 8. Liver and onions sandwich. A robust, iconic dish from the past, the liver and onion sandwich recalls a period when taste, health, and economy all had to coexist on one plate, or in this case, sandwiched between 2 pieces of bread. This sandwich was made with thinly sliced beef or pork liver that was first seared in a pan before being cooked gently with caramelized onions. This allowed the liver's rich, deep taste to soften and absorb the sweetness of the onions. After cooking, the soft chunks were piled on top of rye or soft white bread, frequently topped with a spoonful of spicy sauce or mustard for added crunch. Although the sandwich was eaten open-faced over bread or dressed up with a little gravy in some households, its core elements remain the same: rich flavor, ease of preparation, and genuine enjoyment. During times of reduced resources, liver was the protein of choice since it was available, inexpensive, and nutrient-dense. This sandwich was an essential in the weekly meal plans of many African American households, particularly during times when supplies were few. In addition to the bread making it portable and satisfying, the onions helped balance the liver's strong flavor, making it ideal for workers leaving early in the morning or returning home late after a hard day. For a traditional lunch, serve with coleslaw, chips, or a glass of sweet tea. The liver and onion sandwich is no longer popular in many contemporary kitchens, but for those who grew up eating it, it still evokes a cherished memory of their parents or grandparents standing over the stove, preparing a meal that fed their bodies and souls. Although it isn't extravagant, it is rich in taste, history, and the type of reverence for everyday food that characterizes authentic soul meals. Number 9. BBQ neck bones sandwich. Some of the greatest tastes may be found in the most underappreciated cuts, as evidenced by the BBQ neck bone sandwich, a homegrown masterpiece. Tough, bony, and packed with connective tissue, neck bones were never glamorous, but when prepared by our grandmothers, they become incredibly soft and deliciously smoky. Dipped in rich, tangy barbecue sauce, the neck bones were stacked high on toasted buns or soft white bread and simmered or slow-cooked until the meat slipped off the bone. It was the type of sandwich you ate with both hands and a pile of napkins close by. Every mouthful was untidy, greasy, and utterly delightful. Rich and delicious from hours of simmering, the meat seeped into the bread, and the sauce added spice, sweetness, and just the perfect amount of vinegar to make everything pop. While some people left it simple and let the meat do the talking, others added cabbage for crunch. This sandwich, which was frequently offered at backyard barbecues, fish fries, or family get-togethers when neck bones were on sale, and a little went a long way, was a special delicacy for many African American households. It was a celebration of Southern heritage and slow cooking, serving as a reminder that soul food is about preparation as much as content. A simple recipe for BBQ neck bones sandwich includes 1 chopped onion, 2 to 3 pounds of pork neck bones, salt, pepper, and powdered garlic, a cup or 2 of homemade or store-bought barbecue sauce, sandwich buns, or bread. Onions, pickles, and coleslaw are optional toppings. Sprinkle garlic powder, salt, and pepper over neck bones. Put them in a big saucepan with onions and add water to cover. Simmer for 2.5 to 3 hours, or until the meat is just tender. Allow it to cool a little. To shred the meat, remove the bones. Get rid of the fat and gristle. Lightly cook the meat after tossing it in your preferred barbecue sauce. On white bread or sandwich buns, heap the BBQ neck bone meat. Add pickles or slaw if you want a crunchy, sweet, and tangy taste. Number 10. Scrapple sandwich. In African American kitchens where nothing went to waste, scrapple became a breakfast meal. The sandwich version was a favorite among hard workers leaving for long days in factories, fields, or schoolyards. Scrapple itself is a loaf made from pork scraps, bones, and broth, everything left after butchering, mixed with cornmeal and spices, then cooked down, formed into a block, sliced and fried until crispy on the outside and soft on the inside. The scrapple sandwich is the kind of food that tells a story before you ever take a bite, a tale of survival, sacrifice, and transforming modest beginnings into something substantial and unforgettable. Simple yet elegant, the sandwich consisted of 2 pieces of bread, typically white but occasionally toast, a thick slab of golden fried scrapple, and, depending on what was on hand, a little extra such as a tablespoon of jelly, a fried egg, a slice of cheese, or even a drop of mustard. It's jelly indeed. Its crunchy crust and its soft, creamy, porky within made for a perfect combination of sweet and salty flavors. The cost was reasonable. It was substantial. It was also filled with affection. What made scrapple sandwiches unique was their spirit of creativity and tenacity, which was evident in both inner-city areas and rural communities where they were prepared with whatever was on hand. This was a community meal prepared from what others had thrown out, expertly seasoned and transformed into something you would want to eat. Many people associated it with Saturday mornings, their early years, or the aroma of cornmeal and pig cooking in a cast iron pan in their grandmother's kitchen. Fun fact, originally as a Pennsylvania Dutch meal, scrapple was adapted and transformed by African American communities, becoming an essential fried sandwich at breakfast tables and shops from Philadelphia to the Carolinas. Our grandparents could take a can of potted meat and a single slice of bread and turn it into something that tasted like it came out of a 5-star kitchen. Don't get it twisted. Number 11. Slap jelly sandwich. 2 pieces of white bread and a generous amount of jelly are all that is needed. It's that simple, It's the sandwich, but for millions of black families over the course of centuries, the slap jelly sandwich was more than simply a meal. It was a lifeline. Jelly was always in the refrigerator, and bread was always on the counter when finances were tight and cabinets were almost empty. Whether it was an apple, a strawberry, or a grape, you managed to make it work. Peanut butter. The luxury was that. How about butter? Perhaps next week. Jelly, however, jelly was stretchable. When school lunches were skipped, supper was postponed, or your parents just wanted to fill you up before bed, this sandwich appeared. It was frequently delivered silently, with no grievances or justifications, yet it said it all. We don't have much, but we've got this. When babysitters, older sisters, grandmothers, and single mothers needed to stretch every last dollar till payday, they turned to it. And despite its simplicity, it wasn't depressing. Children adored it. It was soft, sticky, and sweet. Even when it was all you had, it was still delicious. You would ask for another one after licking your fingers. There were some variations, though. Some homes placed a thin layer of butter below the jelly for richness, while others toasted the bread for a little crunch. This simple dinner may be given a touch of history and seasonality in certain regions by using homemade preserves or jelly prepared from fresh fruit. It is no longer popular in today's world of artisan bread and specialized jams, but it is nevertheless worthy of being included in the history of soul food as an example of how something so basic and little can warm a person's heart and satisfy their hunger. Number 12. Potted meat sandwich. Prior to refrigeration, potted meat was used for centuries as a food preservation technique. In the African American community, potted meat became a survival staple, particularly throughout the Jim Crow era, Reconstruction slavery, and the Great Depression. It was produced from cheap or discarded beef portions, which, because of social and economic inequality, were sometimes the only parts that black households could afford. Utilizing leftovers, organ meats, or less appealing pieces, potted meat was a means of preserving them by boiling them down, flavoring them, and packing them in fat. Protein might be preserved for weeks thanks to this method, which is crucial in areas where food insecurity is a problem. Recipes were handed down through the generations and were frequently prepared at home or bought at a discount from nearby grocers or butchers. When fresh meat was unavailable or too expensive, it served as a cheap source of protein. Ingredients often included salt pork or fatback, beef or pig shoulder scraps, organ meats such as liver, and seasonings such black pepper, garlic, onions, and occasionally cayenne or hot sauce for spiciness. After the beef was coarsely cut or shredded and slow cooked, it was securely packed into a jar or saucepan. To seal and preserve the meat below, a layer of melted fat, typically lard, was put on top. The most popular way to spread potted meat was over soft, inexpensive white bread. The meat paste added taste and protein, while the bread was used as a filler to prolong the meal. Some families added pickles or chopped onions for crunch and acidity, hot sauce or cayenne pepper for spice, and mustard or mayonnaise when it was available. It was ideal for families in need of fast meals, kids, and laborers since it was so portable and filling. The commercial brand potted meat food product and canned versions of potted meat are still in use today, but handmade versions continue to have a special place in certain Southern and African American homes as a testament to creativity and legacy. Which of these sandwiches would you dare attempt today? Number 13. Hot Links Sandwich. Consider a period in which black families had restricted access to stores and restaurants due to segregation. Fresh meat was considered a luxury, and money was scarce. Our grandparents had to make the most of every penny and food crumb. The Hot Links Sandwich, a modest yet flaming representation of spirit and survival, fills that need. Hot links are hot sausages made from pork that are highly seasoned with black pepper, paprika, cayenne, and garlic. After hours spent in factories, farms, or construction sites, they had enough heat and taste to rouse weary bodies. An important source of protein, these sausages were accessible and reasonably priced in black communities and neighborhood butcher shops. The sandwich was easy to make yet satisfying. The hot links were grilled, fried, or smoked until they were juicy and had a hint of char, and then they were sandwiched between slices of bread or within a soft white bun. Sharp mustard, raw or sautéed onions, tart pickles, or a dollop of homemade hot sauce were common ways to decorate the sandwich. giving layers of taste without breaking the bank. In Southern sandwiches, coleslaw provides a traditional chili, crunchy contrast. Beyond just being a meal, the Hot Links sandwich was substantial and portable, making it ideal for a fast dinner after a demanding workday or for lunch on the run. It conveyed the lively spirit of tradition and community, showing families that meals could be nourishing and pleasurable even in the face of financial hardship. Due to their processed nature and seasoning, Hot Links typically include a significant amount of fat and salt. Although the flavor profile may change, leaner meats and lower sodium ingredients can be utilized for a healthy alternative. If you're preparing your own Hot Links at home, allow the flavors to merge by letting the seasoned pork cool for a few hours or overnight. Take your time while cooking. Pan frying or slow grilling contributes to the development of a juicy inside and a smoky caramelized outside. If you don't have sausage casings, you can still make a sandwich with sausage patties or sliced sausage. Number 14, pig ear sandwich. For many of our grandparents and great-grandparents, eating was never only about taste or luxury, particularly for those who grew up in the Jim Crow South or during the Great Depression. Getting by was the main concern. It was about making meals that could stretch, nourish, and please while utilizing every resource at hand. The pig ear sandwich, a simple dish infused with culture, memory, and pride, came to represent perseverance and creativity in this setting. Butchers frequently threw away pig ears, which were frequently seen as scraps or undesirable by the general public, or sold them for pennies. In African American homes, however, nothing was wasted. Black cooks had to create magic out of ingredients that no one else wanted, a tradition based in the brutal realities of slavery, Reconstruction, and systematic poverty. Before being cooked for hours in pots with onions, garlic, vinegar, bay leaves, and seasoning mixes handed down through the centuries, pig ears were cleaned and scraped clean. The objective was to turn their thick skin and tough cartilage into something palatable, tasty, and fit for the family table. The ears were frequently served whole or cut into strips after cooking. Occasionally they were chilled and pressed, and other times they were pan-fried to create a crispy outside and a chewy, gelatinous inside. Then they were sandwiched between soft buns or pieces of white sandwich bread, typically topped with a little vinegar, a smattering of yellow mustard, and sometimes some raw onion slices. A lot of people saw this as more than simply a meal. It was a hot and satisfying supper at the kitchen table when there wasn't much else to eat, or it was lunch wrapped in wax paper for the job site, or after a long day in the fields or industries. Southern Black culture was closely associated with the pig ear sandwich, especially in states like Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Arkansas. You may find them sold at little neighborhood stalls, petrol stations, or from family kitchens in places like Memphis, Birmingham, and Jackson. They were proudly served, steaming and crisp. Some were dressed up with tomato and lettuce, while others were straightforward and direct. The sandwich consistently offered a hearty taste, a gratifying texture, and a cozy sense of home, regardless of the garnish. Despite having a rich history and flavor profile, the pig ear sandwich is still mostly forgotten by the general public in today's culinary world, where nose-to-tail dining and Southern meals traditions are regaining popularity. Although it is rarely found on restaurant menus and fewer people create it at home, its heritage endures because of oral history, collective memory, and elderly people who still know how to make it perfectly. Number 15, fried bologna sandwich. Lastly, let's discuss the fried bologna sandwich. It's also known as the hood steak by certain people. This sandwich was an experience in and of itself, not simply a taste. When you heard the sizzling in the pan, you knew lunch was going to be explosive. The scent would permeate the home, leaving everyone wondering, who's making that bologna? The meat in those days was bologna. Cold slices from an upscale deli were not available to your grandparents. They had the large red pack from the local store, or perhaps the official one that came with a lot of salt and judgment. Regardless, it completed the task. You could make a supper out of one slice if you were careful. This is how it worked. You would place the slice in a hot cast iron pan with simply heat, not oil. If you didn't cut the sides, the corners would begin to curl up like a tiny meat sombrero, and the center would bubble as if it were trying to express something. Some people let it puff, while others used a fork to squash it down. the scent anyway. Unadulterated gold. The aroma is smoky, salty, and crispy, and it has the power to rouse you from a slumber and send you directly to the kitchen. Then the sandwich. It's generally the cheap white bread that sticks to the roof of your mouth. But you know what I mean. Put some mustard on it. It's bright yellow, spicy, and a little sloppy, not like the elegant Dijon mess. If you were grown, you may have some spicy sauce or mayo. For breakfast, you may serve a fried egg or a piece of government cheese. Wow, your supper was even better than your rent day. This sandwich was both a joy and a necessity. Before leaving for work, your grandfather tucked it in his lunchbox. It was the dish your grandmother prepared when people were still hungry and payday was still 2 weeks away. It was lunch on Saturday. Even though lunch had just ended, it was the remedy for feeling starved when you got home from school. It was straightforward, yet it always hit. Which comfort meal or family dish from your own family history shows perseverance or creativity? Drop it in the comments below. We might feature your story in the next video.